Hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer Braverman,
And I'm Ellen Selm,
and welcome to our podcast, Stories from the Earth.
where we explore humankind's relationship and connection with the natural world.
We would like to take a quick moment to invite our listeners to consider supporting us through a humble little donation. If you go to our anchor page and click the support button, there are options to donate for $1, $5, or $10. The donations will go towards helping us with future projects such as launching of our herbal education curriculum dubbed the People's Herb School, as well as funding to help take the show on the road and do some on site reviews and interviews at herb farms and schools and other interesting places relevant to our podcast. And you can also go on Apple Podcasts and leave us a comment and a review. So thank you very much.
Today, we welcome these two awesome Western North Carolina women behind Of Wand and Earth, Marshall's Magical Mercantile, Madison County's one and only metaphysical shop for magical and mystical folks from near and far. Welcome, Pascha Haninah and Lisa Wagoner.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Can you tell us a bit about yourselves, the story of how Wand and Earth came into being? What was the inspiration for starting the shop, and what role do each of you play in its running it?
So, Of Wand and Earth was a fluke that happened after I have done many, many years of what I call to be kind of like just spiritually guided. I go where spirit tells me, and working to both in the magical realm, the mystical realm, and as in the shamanic realm, working with all over the world to do different things and make this experience a little bit better in this transition that we're going through a little bit. And so I have no background in anything retail or anything like that. But one day I was in Los Angeles, and I was called into my temple that I operated there. And I was told it's time to go to Asheville. And because I argue with my guides, I said, Nashville. But they said, no, Asheville. And I said, okay. And then I was sort of given this map of things to do and a general timeline. When I got that message, had never been here in my life. We knew a change was coming. We didn't know necessarily what. When I came here, I reached my hand over just as we were crossing over from Tennessee border into North Carolina, and I felt a lump in my breast. And so I turned to my husband and I said, oh, that's something. And he goes, well, what is it? And I said, it's something. So I went back to Los Angeles, and we found ourselves in Florida. And I came here to do, it was a very rigorous breast cancer, and one that, although I never took so much as an ibuprofen, I find myself kind of in the throes of pretty intense chemotherapy and radiation. And in the course of that, I am getting to a Wand and Earth, I swear. I was had a good friend of mine, and I said, I just feel like we're supposed to do something, get our voices out there. And I wasn't really feeling like talking at the time. But she said, all right, I'll do it, And I said, okay. So we decided we were going to start a podcast. And I said, well, what should we call it? And she said, I keep hearing of Wand and Earth. And I'm like, works for me. Look, that's good. Okay. So we kind of came up with that name and put a few things out there. And then when it came time to move, I was told we would be 35 miles outside of Asheville, but I didn't know in which direction. So I really didn't know where I was going. And when we finally found our place, it was on the other side of the mountain, and my kids wanted to go to school on this side of the mountain. So we saw this shack on the side of the road, and I heard my team said, that's your store. And I said, we didn't talk about having a store. You never said store. So what am I to do with a store? I don't have any inventory. I don't, I'm terrible. I'm pretty good at a yard sale, but I, never really done anything like that. But what they had told me was time was coming was that it's my responsibility to create a space where people can come. So it's not about, necessarily what I'm going to sell or what's going to be in the store, but just a place where people know that they can come as this great awakening, as this change is happening. And I said, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do it. It makes sense. I'll get that little place. And then I said, well, what are we going to call it? Right? Because I like names. And they said, Of Wand and Earth. And I said, that's a big name for a town right there on the freeway where I don't know a single person. And there we are. So we were there for 2 years, and then that place wasn't the right spot anymore. Eventually moved downtown, and we continued to thrive as just simply as a place of exactly that, where people walk in and they go, oh, I'm home. This feels good to me. My kid loves it. My dog loves it. Sometimes, it's about, oh, I'm looking for a treat or a treasure, but sometimes it's just about being in that mystical space where they feel, I don't know, safe, I think is a good word. And then one day, Lisa, who was in the area and she was working, somewhere else at the time, she came up to introduce herself. And I thought that was pretty neat because like I said, I didn't know anybody. And a lot of people, when you come to a new town, I'm from California. So when you go surfing out and you're not from there, you're going to have a little bit of a problem. It's locals only kind of situation. But I didn't get that a lot from Madison County, and especially not from Lisa. She walked in and was just very welcoming and wanted to know what we were about and what our heart was about and what our spirit was about. So then when I moved, I thought maybe she might like to come work for me. So I basically stalked her and hunted her down. And she came to work. I offered her an excellent job title, and I think that was the thing that sealed the deal.
That's awesome. So when did it officially start? When you were in the original shack location, what was your first opening year?
Our opening day was Ostara of 2018. So it was spring equinox of 2018. We're given the message to come April 4th of 2016. And our departure date was August 1st, 2016. And there was 2017 was the healing. And we moved here. I got this space at the end of 2017, but it took us a while to get ready. One of the things that was really cool about the shop was that we are in a very small town. There has never been anything like this in Madison.
Oh, yeah.
Anything. And it's a big deal to many people to even, see something like that there. And one of the most beautiful things that happened to me, I think I was on bypass, is to be seen. And people would come in and say, what are you doing here? And I would answer them the same as I would answer them today. I don't know. What are you doing here? And they said, we'd start to talk. They'd say, well, what are you about? And, or I like this, or my mama used to use this herb, and we used to do something like that. And before you know it, they were spending a lot of time there, or that became their place. Multiple generations would come in and they would talk about some of the hard things that they've had to endure or that they had to experience. And a lot of that, I think the common thread was that they were seers. They'd come from a long line of seers and they had seer beat out of them. And that is the truth. They found themselves, really shamed or worse because they were seers. And then they have these powerful children or sometimes grandchildren right now. And these children and grandchildren are like, I am what I am. And they just have such confidence and such personal strength. They would come to me and they would say, I don't know what to do. My mama used to, nobody ever taught me what to do. How do I preserve this in my child? How do I keep it in my child or my grandchild? And that's how I knew that I was in the right place, because that's what's important to me, that we preserve that, what's inside of us, whatever that is, that's that truth. So that was pretty much the welcome. And I also, you've made it when you paid in eggs. When someone shows up and says, "I've got a dozen eggs, is that okay?" I said, yes, that'll do just fine. Just come on in and let's do that, because there's a reciprocity that's happening. It's not about that currency exchange. It's not about that. It's about, what are we doing together? How are we going to create a magical world where there's diversity, where there's, a different way of looking at things, and where it has the foundation of love, and where magic is real, right? We don't question it there. So it's pretty good. We have a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's the best kind of coming together story. And having grown up in the area, I've always heard it said, Asheville and the surrounding area has a way of kind of drawing people in or spitting people out. And your story is pure drawing through and through.
I don't like to get on social media. That's one of the wonderful things that my maven of mystical curation, Lisa Wagoner, helps me with. But she handles a lot of that. But one time there was someone from the county who was saying bad things about me. And a lot of people jumped to my defense on Facebook, and somebody tagged me. And it was this long thread about all these people telling what I'm about. And I said, no, I can talk for myself right now. And so I spoke to the person and said, here's what I'm about. You don't have to hear about it from anybody else. I don't remember you ever coming into my store, but if you came into my store, you would learn that this is what I'm about. This is what I do. This is why I'm here. This is what, this is it. And she wrote back, oh, you're not that different after all. My daughter, her granddaughter, makes these really cool witchy charms. I should have her meet you. And she likes crystals, and it's kind of like turned it around just like that, because it was like, no, we're not different. We don't have, like, let's talk about this place here. That's these mountains. No, because these mountains told me to come here. I didn't come here on my own. I never even knew they existed. These mountains brought us here. And for a long time, that first year, you'd see cars, they'd go, boom, 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 into the thing. And they'd come in and they'd say, I don't know why I'm here, or I just found myself here. I've never been here before in my life. And I just felt like I needed to pack up and move here. And I was like, oh, was that April of 2016? And they said, yeah, it was April of 2016. Yeah, there must have been Morse code or something went out. I don't know, but there was a lot of people that heard, and it comes in waves, but they started hearing that, and then they didn't know what to do. A lot of people are awakening as we change in consciousness, and a lot of what you guys are doing with this, even awareness of our natural world and awareness of our plant medicine and our plant allies, that awakening, it contributes through our food, it contributes to our body and our medicine, and it creates an awakening of consciousness that that you're receiving if you don't know you're receiving. So what happens when you receive, you don't know that you're receiving, you don't know what to do about it? You have to find someone that you trust, that you feel safe, in order to help you move into what you're supposed to be doing. That's what I think we're doing here.
My family is from Brooklyn, from New York, so we're not originally from here, and we lived in Alexander on the county line with Madison County, where you guys are. And so we were kind of out the real estate agent was like, oh, they're gonna hate it, it's so far out. We ended up with like 3.5 acres and a barn, but the neighbors, even though they're like, oh, those weirdos from New York, they were really like, very open to us. My parents were also very open to the culture, and once they saw that, we had a real rapport going on, and they helped her with her garden, and we would get, like, the lady next door made this like incredible homemade like fudge and all this candy at Christmas time, and it was like old-timey stuff, and we would get tons of it, and we'd come over. And so there's something, even though like maybe there's a beginning awkwardness, I think there's kind of a more openness to the people who are native here than you would think. I think
it really is a cool place, and I think that one of the things that we're really really trying hard to do is to make sure that those voices don't get lost in the new wave of businesses and things that are kind of coming in, because they're important. There's new people. I mean, I'm one of them, right? There are different people that want to be able to have access to the things that are meaningful to them. But there's a lot of power in those mountains, and there's a lot of power that's been carried on through song, through tradition, through an understanding of the planetary planting and planting by the moon, in no-till farming, and just song, carrying song into your garden, and smelling the rain, knowing like when the rain or snow's coming, because of the smell or the sound that you hear in the trees, and having that communication. That is something that I don't know that you can always be taught. Like, like some of those things that you just absorb when you're in it. And when you draw a division away from some of those old traditions and that way of knowing, and that type of intelligence, and you decide that this has value, or that's no longer valuable, or this is trendy or popular or in style, it leaves a lot out. And so we're really trying to make sure that everybody is welcome. And not everybody wants to come in to the store. We get people that walk in and walk out really fast, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's all right. But we get people that stay a while. We have people that come off that have been downtown Marshall in 30 years and will come in and sit and just talk. They're not talking about witchy stuff, and they're not talking about crystals or stones. They're talking. And we really like that a lot. We really like it when people feel like this is their community place. And that's why we kind of wanted to make a tea house where you can stay longer, because you can only, feel comfortable sitting on the couch and holding a crystal for so long. And then you start feeling like, maybe I should do something. So we said, great, let's tea.
Yeah, Lisa.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your story.
Oh, well, my story, I grew up between New York and North Carolina. I grew up in this duality of the North and the South, which are very distinctly different. I grew up in the city. I also grew up in upstate New York. So we were sort of a family of wanderlust. And so I grew up in a lot of different places. So I think from that, I just sort of learned to just fit into whatever environment I was in, with definitely a deep appreciation for both. It was really funny. I moved here in 2015. I moved here from Winston-Salem. I was driving on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and my plan was to move to Wilmington because, I'm a Pisces. I want to be by the ocean, and I'm moving to, Wilmington. And I heard a voice that said, "You're moving to Asheville." And I thought, well, that's interesting. And the funny thing was, I didn't even question it. I was just like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. I usually had gone to Boone and Blowing Rock. And I'd been to Asheville several times. And I thought, all right, I'll give it a try. So I literally moved here not knowing anybody. Same thing like Pascha. In the past 7 years, just been a part of the community. And so many amazing and magical things have happened. And when I met Pascha in her shack on the highway, I immediately knew like we were kindred spirits. We're both very multicultural. We both have traveled a lot. We're both, I think, more drawn to the natural part of magic and witchcraft. And so we speak the same language about a lot of things, and the things that are important to us, like to me, like community and reaching out to people and learning their stories and being welcoming. That's like really inherent in me. And so I saw that in Pascha. And so when it was funny when she contacted me about this job, I was like, do you have the right person? Like, I wasn't sure, with a name like Lisa, she could have meant another one. When I, walked into a new location, I was just like, oh, this is special, so I was really happy to join and, help build community and get the word out. Like every single time I'm there and someone comes in, especially from out of town, we're getting a lot of tourists that make us a destination, which is really gratifying. Like they'll just come through the door and take this deep breath, and they're like, like they're home. And we even have like a doormat that says, welcome home or home sweet home. And that just really feels good. And that's what we both really strive for.
So you touched upon this a little bit, Pascha, but being that we are kind of in part of the South Bible Belt here, so to speak. Have you met with any particular challenges since opening a pagan-themed shop in a rural town? And if so, how have you intentionally worked to build the community connection and then destigmatize those kinds of perceptions?
Well, I have a different way of looking at things than some people might. And my approach is that I create the world that I want to live in. And so I will remove power from things that cause harm. So if somebody wants to come with something that they might come at me aggressively with a belief, I move that power out. And then once that power is removed from that, and I talk to them from the heart, we usually end up seeing eye to eye. Now, you're not going to get me to be a Christian. I mean, that's just never going to happen. It's like, even though I'm the only one in my family that ever went to church, because I love spirit. And I love going to church, actually. I like to sit in church. I like any church. Like, I will go all over the world. I'm like, I want to go, but I don't like indoctrination, and I don't like people forcing beliefs. That's just me. I found in my my practice is true and real and beautiful and powerful, and I feel like I do good with that in the world. So we struggle only when somebody, puts words on me that aren't true. I know how my soul is being redeemed, but I haven't had any trouble. I haven't had any trouble, and in fact, I think a lot of people like us.
I do. Yeah.
I think old time. I think like us.
Yeah,
and
I think
that,
because the store is very inviting, and it does have a lot of natural items. I mean, Pascha is a crystal hoarder, so we have tons of crystals, and I think people are just drawn into that. So it's a lot of natural items, so that draws people in first, and then they look around, and then we have herbs and candles and books and all kinds of things that are not threatening. It's things that they're used to, and like she said, they'll just start telling their own stories. And I think that's what's great, is like all of the employees are always just very welcoming and open, and I think that sort of deflects anything that maybe when they come in, if they had a preconceived idea, I've noticed that just goes away because we are so welcoming and open.
Well, and I also think that another thing that I have experienced is that I have a very loud spirit team, and on that spirit team, I have a lot of ancestors. And one of my ancestors, Mama Haninah, was an herbal healer in Casablanca. She kind of talks really loud, and then I have, some Cherokee lineage also, and so. My grandfather was part raised on the reservation, even though I didn't get to know them in their lifetimes. I only have to speak to them through spirit. They are really loud, and what they tell me is that there's healing that is needed. And if we serve as a vessel for that healing, that's the magic. It's not the hocus pocus. It's not even standing under the moon. It's finding that space where there's suffering and turning that suffering into, something of hope. And so anybody who walks in the door, I know and I recognize if they're coming at me with anger, that I recognize that as suffering. And I have people that I don't even know their name. Anybody will tell you, if you come in and you're suffering and I'm there and I see it and I can help you, I will. They know that. And I don't like, on them or whatever, but sometimes they start talking, and through that we can find a way that they might find some peace, or they might let go of some of the trauma or the hardship. There's a lot of trauma. There are a lot of things that have happened by circumstance that is not somebody's fault, and they have to carry through their lineage from that point on. And so if we can help them with that, then they leave in a different way. It changes in them. So they don't see it like they're doing something bad in there. They see it like, if you need help, that's a place where you can go. So that's what people told me the first 2 years that I was on the thing. They said, I was told to come to you for help. And I would say, okay, what are we going to do here then? I think that's why the mountain asked for help, because the people that it loves and the people that love the mountain need help right now.
guide to come in and open the door to a nice, warm, welcoming hearth and let them feel free again, maybe, and some of those things that have been stuffed down in their subconscious or in their daily lives and so forth. That's
even if it's just half an hour, even if it's just, the time that it takes them to walk through the store. Sometimes some people say, I had to go out and I had to come back for a refill.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. But I like that. That makes me happy. Like if that's what I've accomplished in this lifetime, then I feel like that's a success. Like, I don't know how long we'll be there. I don't know when the next assignment's coming in, but if that's what we're doing there, then I feel like we've done a good job. If it lasts a month, if it lasts 10 years, I don't know. But it's meaningful, I think.
I feel like so many places, especially stores or just places in general are not like that. They're not, I wouldn't describe them as cozy or welcoming or even sort of like, I find, sometimes going into a lot of stores very the opposite, stressful and like overwhelming. And so I think that's awesome that your shop is like that. So, and can offer people a little bit of that, especially if they don't have it. They might not have it at their work. They might not have it at their home. They might not realize this is a different way to feel because they weren't taught that or they can experience that. So, yeah.
That's what I love about Pascha. It's not about making money. It's about, helping. And that's like my passion in life is just simply to help people. It's really great to see that she's the kind of person that walks the talk and does that in her daily life and in the shop. So it's like a complete joy to be there and be part of that.
But I sell a lot of crystals, and like crystals come from the earth. They're a gift from the earth. I feel like they're offering themselves in their beauty, and they're offering themselves. They're making themselves seen. And in order to really honor that, I feel like we need to make them accessible for people. And so we always try to have it be, something that people can take home with them. We have expensive things in there, but they're expensive because they're expensive to me, but we have to try to keep things in a price where people can enjoy them. Kids come in and they've saved their $5 because they want to buy something special for mom or dad. And that's the place where they want to go from. That's amazing to me. I think that's beautiful. And I think that stone's going to be really happy because it was chosen with love from little hands. They come in, the kids, they touch everything. And the parents will be like, oh, no. And we're like, oh, yeah. Get those little baby hands on it. They love it. The stones love the little ones. They just love them.
And Pascha handpicks each crystal. So it's not like she just buys them online. She literally handpicks each one. That makes a huge difference as well.
I have a little bit of a problem.
She does. We don't talk about that.
I've got my smoky quartz here.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
So since we moved, this is one of the ones I just kept this one out. All the others are packed. And I'm like, I need my crystals.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite memories is we used to do it when I was younger. And it was kind of touristy. It's still kind of touristy, but you go to the gem mines and you get a bucket and you do the, sifting. And I just loved it because you just learn about all the stones and it's so much fun. And, when your brother finds a cool watermelon tourmaline, you're very jealous about it. But this goes into our next question, which you can talk a little bit about your crystals some more if you'd like. So unfortunately, we did not get a chance to go visit your shop because we wanted to, and we will. When someone visits your shop, what kind of items do you have for sale? Yeah, can you just tell us a little about the items that they would find there?
We have a lot of stones from all over the world. We have local artists. I think it's really important to support people who are making things with their hands. And so here at this store, and then also we have a gallery in Hot Springs also, we offer, really affordable, I think it's really affordable, space for artists to come in and they can put some things in there. So we have some really fun, whimsical things that people make. A lot of your traditional things that you would expect to find in a metaphysical store. We have pendants and charms and talismans. We have crystals and herbs and candles and kinds of things, magical oils and things like that. So we have jewelry, and we have all the stuff that we like. I mean, pretty much we only pick out things that we like. Got good stuff. What people find and what they're expecting aren't always the same thing. Mm-hmm. We have a giant grand piano named Lugosi that just was gifted to the store before we opened because somebody needed a place to put their giant grand piano. So we have people that will come in and little ones that will try playing too, and it sounds great. So we just have art, local artists that paint or create sculptures or things like that. Amazing skulls by one of our friend who does these amazing skulls and drums.
Oh wow!
It's just a nice place. It's got nice stuff.
We can't wait to visit.
Yeah,
we also,
now you're really gonna want to visit.
We also have like books and tarot cards and incense.
Oh yeah,
and clothes, all different kinds of candles. So we have a little bit of everything. And things for kids as well. We have a really great and beautiful dragon display.
Oh,
yeah, lots of dragons.
Like the dragons.
And you all offer classes too, I guess, in person and online, or just one or the other. Can you tell us a little more about that in case any of our listeners want to sign up?
We've really kind of just been trying to get the class schedule kind of up and going again. We have a program that's called the Ostara Network, and through the Ostara Network, it's kind of a membership, so it allows people who want to be really involved in the community an opportunity to come to workshops that either are greatly discounted or free, and they can kind of come to as many things as they want. Most everything is available to everybody, regardless of whether they want to join on the membership level or not. I teach a lot of different programs, and one of the main things that I enjoy teaching most is called Goddess Awakens. Walked Goddess path for 35 years, so it's really important to me to put her back on our lips, back in our hearts. And I think that one way that we can align with Great Mother and all her names is through learning about maybe goddess stories, myths, and songs that we don't know yet. So I like to go into ones that are a little bit lesser known. We've had some really powerful experiences in that. We do the Ostara Network. We do a monthly witches tea. You come and we sit and we have a tea and potluck and we read cards for each other and giggle and clink our cups and stuff. So Lisa's going to be doing a positive pagan workshop to go in alignment with her amazing new book. I've had sound healing. Oh, I have a Your Divine Journey where as a program which walks people through their spiritual awakening and their own empowerment to, I think, help them kind of figure out why they're here, what doing, and what to do next in terms of their spiritual power. We do crystal classes, the stuff we like, the things that we like, that we're in the mood that we like to teach it. we're kind of
eclectic.
I don't know. We do what we want. Remember that from South Park? I do what I want. We do what we want. Yeah, we're trying to get it online. Trying to get some recordings up and being able to access. I think from California and having been very connected in that community for many years, there are a lot of my friends that love to see, have access to things that we're doing. So that's kind of on our bucket list right now, trying to get that up and going and make more accessible in that way.
We had couple of empath classes, empath support group. Yeah, we're looking to have a men's group too. I have a friend that wants to start that up as well. So yeah, so we're always open to things. It just, each month is just sort of full of things, and then we get directed in another way. So yeah, so that's definitely in the works as we speak.
Well, it's always a good thing to not have any dry spell on the ideas. So
no.
If you bank them, then you're set for months and years to come.
Yeah, it feels like it. Yeah. Yeah. But more about the challenges I would say from being in the rural community, though, is that we get people really asking us to put these things together. And then quite a bit of work goes into putting them together. And then it's nobody's available that weekend, or maybe there's just one person. And so we want to bring in a lot of different voices with a lot of different expertise and experience. We don't want them to put a lot of work into something and then not being able to support it. So we feel like being able to have that video component will be a real game changer, because they can get their program together. And even if there's only, 2 or 3 people, it feels, like it's impactful. People can access it online or something. So and we're small town, it's not only that we're rural, we're small town. Saturdays, that's farm day. You got to get out there and get in the garden and get everything done, and then
there's so much going on, in Asheville or something, and then the gas prices being high, it's always something.
It's hard to get people sometimes to come out. So we understand that, but we're trying to find the sweet spot. We haven't, and also with COVID, we were closed. Yeah. We weren't really doing anything in person. So we're still trying to find that sweet spot. We want people to feel like they have what they need, but we don't want to burn ourselves out putting it together. We want to do retreats. I really like to fully immerse. I've done a lot of journey workshops, helping people to really hone in on their journey work or things like that. Those are really fun. I think lots of times being able to have something more intensive, where you really go deep and then you step back, really go deep and step back, is nice. So I think a weekend retreat, things like that, a couple times a year, we're looking at being able to do that, particularly if they're at the beach. We're beach retreat. I think we need a beach retreat. We're no shortage of opportunities or things that we're thinking of doing, but time can sometimes be that. You have to stretch it out a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. Same for us. We have lots of ideas, but it just takes time to realize them. But
sometimes it just has to marinate, and then it'll be all the better when it finally launches.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah. Can you both share a little bit about your spiritual practices?
Oh, you go ahead, Lisa. I've done a lot of talking. I'm going. I feel like I've already kind of spilled the beans. So.
Yeah. Okay. So my spiritual practice, I consider myself a Celtic pagan witch. Follow a Celtic spirituality in that I am devoted to Bridget. I follow a couple other deities as well, but it's very nature based. Consider myself a forest witch. It's just part of my daily life as, just moving through the day, always trying to make magic out of the mundane is sort of one of my passions. And so, that's pretty much what I follow. My background in that is that I pretty much grew up with my mom and my grandmother, who are German Austrian. So we had a lot of folk magic growing up, which also Austria borders on Italy. So a little bit of Strega got in there as well. And so a lot of things, I just grew up thinking, oh, this is just the weird stuff my family does. And then realizing wait a second, there's language for this. These are all things I've been doing my whole life, and just sort of solidified it in adult years.
It's awesome that you got to have the freedom of that exposure young, just kind of through osmosis trickling down the family line, and then you grew up and you're like, oh,
wait a second,
more to this.
Well, it was just really natural. I'm not even sure if you would have told them is that spell work, is that an altar, they probably wouldn't have said that, but it was all things I've been doing this my entire life, and manifesting, making things happen, and both of them pretty much, we just always did it. And, I never really thought twice about it. And then when I had language for it, it just made it ever so more powerful for me, because I was like, oh, now that makes sense. I just thought it was my family stuff. And so, that's been great fun, just researching. My favorite thing to do is find the thread of commonality in things. So I will find things that, with the Italian folk magic, with Austrian, with German, and just see things that sort of carried over. And then what's really cool about the Celtic spirituality, I'm not even remotely Irish, so that was weird. And then I was at the Lorena McKennitt concert a couple of years ago, and in the middle of it, she just starts saying how people always think the Celts were, just in Ireland, Scotland, England, but no, not really. They were over in Germany and Austria. And I just got goosebumps because when I was a kid, I lived in Austria for about a year. And one of the favorite places to go to was Hallstatt, which is this beautiful town on a lake. And that's where like a huge bunch of the Celts had settled. And then I made that connection and I was like, oh, okay, now this makes sense. Maybe it's in my DNA somewhere, back in the day kind of stuff. So yeah, so that was a really neat connection to make as well.
And Pascha, on the website, there's info about a service you offered titled Haninah Healing for Mind, Body, and Spirit. Can you share more about what healing arts practices that entails and what issues people might seek out your services for?
Sure. Before to lead into that, I'll just give you a little bit about my 12-step program to how I ended up here. But so I was born into a family, like I said, no spiritual practice at all. Just never had church. We never had any kind of folk magic, nothing. I mean, we just kind of just did our life. And then there was me, and I was a seer from a very early age. I communed with spirit. I loved most of my spirit friends. I didn't like all. I took care of wounded animals, like that kind of thing. And I was just always beat to my own drum, and I didn't know it was anything. I would see things and get into trouble because I would say, you're drinking from the water fountain, my horse is drinking from the water fountain. And then, in the 5th grade, and he ran to the teacher and said, she hit me and said I was drinking where her horse was drinking. And the teacher said, well, next time watch out for her horse. And I was like, yeah, like that kind of thing. I just kind of, I didn't know that you couldn't see it. That was where I was, but I didn't know any names for anything. I didn't know anything about astrology. I didn't know anything about anything. And then when I got to high school, I made a friend. I didn't really have a lot of friends, so it was kind of a big deal that I had a friend. And that friend was really into magic. She was really into the witchy thing. We decided we were going to be the witchiest of the witchy for our freshman year. And we just, we were in the Bay Area, so we went to all the San Francisco stores and, Starhawk and Margot Adler and, that whole Z Budapest, that whole kind of California Wiccan scene. Like we wanted it all. And so I got really involved in magic, got really involved in practice and, very understanding the procedures of magic. However, I did not do anything that was at all protective, and I opened up things that were very harmful for myself and others. And so as a result of that, I really pulled out of that. I said, I don't like that. I went a real downward spiral, and I just really kind of cut it out. But kind of those other things were always really loud. And there came a time in my life where I said, I wasn't honoring what I think I was here to. And I consider myself a spiritual warrior, consider myself a realm walker, and I consider myself, I don't love the word because I don't feel like earned the training, but I consider myself a shaman because a lot of the work I do is in the realm. And so with that, I just kind of turned to my spirit team and I said, you drive. I said, will you listen to us now? And I said, yes. And so in that, I made that commitment. I made that promise. Everything in my life from then has been about that and that only. My family has had to accept that is our purpose in life. I'm not doing this again. I'm getting all my karma cleared up. I'm cleaning up the mess. And in that, my hands got activated and I began to move energy, do energy work. And I was, before this, the person who would say, Reiki, who does that? It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my whole life. I was very cynical about it. But then I got activated and attuned to Reiki, and the miracles that happened, you wouldn't believe them. Like I could sit here and list them all out, and it would still be an unbelievable thing to hear some of the miracles that happened. As that, my grandmother, Mama Haninah, started saying, you have to get out there in the world and do this. And I get hung up on names. So I was like, what would I call it if I were to do it? It's not really Reiki. It's like, And I couldn't think of anything. I kept hearing Mama Haninah, Mama Haninah, Mama Haninah, Mama Haninah, Mama Haninah. And this went on for like 2 or 3 days. And I was like, Haninah. And Haninah is my middle name. I was named after her. And then a friend of mine called me up and she said, this sounds weird, but your grandmother is telling me Haninah. And I was like, I guess I'm going to call it Haninah healing. So that's what it is. So that's how that came about. What it looks like is we scan the body, first of all. We scan the energy field, we scan the body. We look for areas where there's physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual trauma that is interfering with balance and harmonious existence. So when we find that, we can tap into that. We can test and find out where it's coming from. Is it physical, emotional, mental, spiritual? Is it from this lifetime, previous lifetime? Is it in your karmic line, lives yet to come? That has happened. It's not happened, but once in a while, you are suffering from something that you have agreed to in a future existence.
Wow.
Now, isn't that?
I haven't heard of that.
I mean, that's a real big mess to clean up, right? So, so we find them, and we can actually we can reprogram that energy around them. We can remove the trauma. We can go into that trauma, and we can negotiate with it, I guess is what a nice way to say. Bring some of that peace around that, bring that healing and reprogram the belief systems that came into effect as a result of that trauma. So a young one who is experiencing, say, parents who are fighting a lot, and they don't have the skills or the understanding of the experience to say, wow, dad's had a day at work or whatever, right? They receive the information that they receive. War story comes into place. Maybe this isn't a safe place, or dad mean, or whatever. You never know what that story is, because you're operating on a level without necessarily a context to put that in. But you can actually go into that trauma and you can reprogram that trauma. And then we can say, is that the truth that you want to keep, kind of going on forward? And so it's very, very powerful, because you can literally reprogram false belief systems that are affecting the way that you are living and existing in the world today. So it's really beautiful. And it also allows, because your spirit team works with my spirit team, working together to get as much information as we can. That's kind of like a deeper work than necessarily Reiki, which we might just scan the body and offer healing and be more of a relaxing thing. And so that's kind of what it is in a nutshell. It's always different. There's a lot of layers, but we all have a lot of layers. If we think about how we react to any situation in any time in the world, how we might react to somebody who says or does something that's different than us, a trigger, let's say, where's that trigger coming from? There's all sorts of deep, hard shadow work that can happen. It doesn't just do a swoop. It's like, oh, it's gone. Now it doesn't exist anymore. So go have a happy life. No, you have a recognition, so that when it tries to find its way back into your daily life, you say, oh no, you don't live here anymore. We already took care of you. And if it's still there, then you say, okay, what else? What did I miss? What do I still need to know about this? And there's a lot of compassion, self-compassion, and love for those who may have choice or circumstance caused us harm or suffering. There's a lot that we can forgive. We can create a belief system that the world is a safer, more beautiful place, and we're programmed to believe that it is. And I think that's the important work. There's a lot of really wonderful people doing this work. There's a lot of really wonderful people seeking work. And I like to show people how to do the work themselves. Something that's important to me. I think ultimately, if I show you and you do the work and you get empowered in it, and you can show somebody else down the line, that's a really good way. It doesn't belong to me. Mama Haninah's name on it because she bugged my friend. I didn't get the message, but I try to honor her through that, because I know that she was kind and she cared about the people in her community. My grandmother, she used to come home from school, and Mama Haninah would be, putting a poultice on someone, and she'd have something to eat? And Mama Haninah would be like, oh, hey, I'm helping the neighbor, kind of thing. So it was important for her to do that, but there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of different names, and there's a lot of different ways. I think it's wonderful when people put their own connection into it, because it's moving through them. It's working through their connection with spirit. It's not new. Everybody has a way that they heal. Sometimes it's with plants, and sometimes it's with stuff like that. Yeah, we have our way. Song, musicians heal through music. There's all different ways to do it.
What inspires you most about the natural world?
The thing that inspires me the most about the natural world is the way that the natural world creates puzzles and pictures and connections for me to, I don't know, it speaks. I feel like when I'm there and I'm in nature, and I live in the woods, live in the forest, on the river, and I feel like it's for me. Like that moment is for me. That animal, the crows that are talking, or, right there, they're for me. They're communicating. They're keeping me safe. They're letting me know what I need to know. They're guarding over my family. And that may not be the truth, but that's sure how it feels to me when I'm there. When I'm in the water, I don't know. It's the most powerful, beautiful, pure feeling to be near that beautiful water and be in those old trees and the mushrooms and the animals and everything. I mean, it's just you feel alive, I feel like I have the ability to keep doing, the hard work, because this is what it's for. And I feel like part of my work is advocating for nature and advocating for the water, advocating for the trees and the animals, to do my best and do right by them so they can have balanced life too. I don't know. To me, that's life. That's real.
Well, for me, what inspires me about nature is how it can ground and center you so quickly. And like, people always ask me, like, how like, I was even asked that yesterday, how do I get in a better place or a better frame of mind? And I'll always say, go walk outside barefoot. And it has the power to, make everything else seem so inconsequential. Everything sort of falls away. And for people that are overwhelmed with life, I'm always telling them, just get outside, as much as you can. Like, even growing up in New York, I mean, I grew up in Washington Square Park, and that has like little patches of grass and trees. And I was forever there as a kid. And then obviously Central Park too, just because nature was always really important. And what I find really interesting too about the mountains around here, like, I've never experienced this, and I've lived in quite a few places, but like, when I leave, it feels like when I come back and that first glimpse of the mountain, it's like I can breathe again. And I'm not even aware, like, I've been holding my breath, I've been, out of sorts or anything. But that first glimpse of the mountains, it's like them saying, welcome back. Where have you been? But then I feel myself like, and I do that breathing thing. And it surprises me, because it happens every single time, no matter where I go. And that's really powerful.
I appreciate that analogy and recognition, Lisa. I grew up in this state, but I lived out of state for 10 years. And when I finally moved back, I kind of made up this song of intention as I was driving back home, and I saw the gateway of the mountains entering back in, and the opening lines of the song are, when the mountains sing home to me, oh, I can sing, oh, I can breathe. And I always and it was just kind of like, almost like the song kind of moved through me, and I just said what I needed to say. And I've always thought, like part of me is just like, why did I choose that line? But then you just kind of corroborated it, So
yeah, thank you. Likewise. Yeah. It's the weirdest feeling, and but it's wonderful, and it's just like that first, I'm so eager for it. Just that first glimpse of anytime I'm out of this area, it's like, okay, I'm back, and just that feeling of love and connection. Like, I always do feel like they're saying to me, like, where you been? Glad you're back, and it doesn't matter what direction I come from. It happens every single time. So
that's awesome.
So kind of piggybacking on that all that same concept, can you tell us some of your favorite ways that you all connect with the natural world to find peace and stay grounded in everyday life?
Well, for me, same thing. Like Pascha, I live in what I consider a forest, and I have a creek across the street. So I do a lot of work in that creek, and I'm a tree hugger. I mean, that's the first thing I do is just like I'll find a tree and just like literally hug it like it's a family member and just feel their energy. That's my favorite thing to do. And then just to get lost where there's no people, go on the Blue Ridge Parkway and find a trail and just get out there and, and explore, because there's so much amazing vegetation here, like different trees and plants and, the waterfalls, creeks, lakes. It's just so much beautiful nature. It just puts everything into perspective. So the thing that was overwhelming me or bothering me, as soon as I'm, in the midst of natural beauty, it just moves everything into clarity for me. So what about you, Pascha?
Well, I live in a tree house, so I'm just constantly surrounded by trees. It's kind of a joke, but not really. We kind of live on a little stilted house, and it's just completely surrounded by trees. We're right on the border of the Pisgah and the Cherokee National Forest, so I live on the river. It's just really fortunate to have those elements. I don't have a lot of free time, so I don't get to enjoy the hikes through nature, going on a hike or going on a walk as often as I would like. But what really is meaningful to me is whenever I can get into water. We have this incredible pure water falls. They're in Tennessee, just right up my road. I mean, just to get in there and get completely immersed in here, tomorrow I'll be able to go into the ocean and dive in and just really sit in the hot Florida, with the bank and just really be in the water. That's just a real therapeutic thing for me. And then whenever I can, I try to take a walk and take a hike and get out into the trees and do that. But I also really am connected to the mound culture. So whenever I can get to some of the Native American mounds, I spend a lot of time with the mounds and the people. So that's really special for me.
And animals as well. Lately, I've had like bears just walking through my yard. And that's like the first time. I know it's sort of common in Asheville, but this year they seem really active. And then we've also had wild turkeys. I've just really been enjoying like connecting into that kind of energy. And even I'm not fond of snakes, but I respect them. Just seeing that and sort of just tapping into the energy, or, they show up at the most amazing times, in my opinion, like just when I need them. Like yesterday, it was funny. Literally, I look out my window that I'm looking out now, and a bear just walked on by, and it's beautiful and reassuring and just so weird.
Oh my gosh. I had an ibis walk in front of me. She's supposed to be working on a writing project. So I follow an Egyptian-esque. I'm devoted to Isis. I keep a temple to Isis and all her names. But ibis walked in front of me. And so slow in the parking lot. It was like, I'm just going to stay here until you notice me walking in front of you. And I was like, fine. Toth, I got it. I know I need to start writing. Yeah, I get a love bird messages, and we have a lot of animals, around us too. But we have been a lot of bears. There have been a lot of bears in Asheville. I've only seen one bear up in the mountains, and I live in a bear preserve
area.
Yeah, I've only seen one in Asheville. Yeah. Big old bears like hanging out. And they're just sitting there on the side of the road, like, what do you want? And we're like, Mr. Bear, because sometimes it's a little bit ridiculous. But I was like, there's been a lot of bears in Asheville, because of the weird weather. We didn't have as much food. I would have expected them to come a little closer to the houses. It didn't seem like there was enough. I didn't even get it. I guess it's too late for berries, but we didn't even get any. I think they came and then they froze, again. We had too many freezes, I think, this year so they said maybe they're hungry.
Yeah, we see a lot of bears where we used to live, our old apartment, which is right off of Charlotte Street in Asheville. And yeah, every year, And we were just walking.
I know, just walking
And
around.
there's like, there's a
Minding their own
bear.
business.
We're just standing, watching these little bear cubs just raid the trash cans. We're just like
Yeah.
from across the street going, "Hi, bear."
I still love them. I don't care if they get into the garbage.
No. So what are your favorite books that you recommend pertaining to herbs, magic, spiritual growth, etc.?
Well, I'll take that one because I'm the book person
Okay.
at the shop. So I have visual aids. So this one is really good. The Wild Witchcraft one, I think you covered it maybe with Becky Beyer. Yeah, she works near us, and I've really enjoyed it. It's a beautiful book. I've taken some classes from her, so it's really nice to have this in book form, to refer to as well. And then as far as like herbalism, I picked this up when I went to visit Cherokee, but I've really gotten into this plants of the Cherokee just because we're on their land. And, I want to know about the natural plant world and things like that. And that's easily found as well. And it's by William Banks. Really like those. Then the other book I thought that was really cool. Now, this isn't really a witchy book. I got this for Christmas and Yule, but it's a book called The Lost Spells. And I don't know if you know the author, the Robert Macfarlane. He did the other book about lost words that we don't use anymore. And this one is just really magical, and it just, it brings into nature and language, and it's like all of my favorite subjects. So I really like this book a lot. So Pascha, do you have any favorites?
Oh, sure. Well, I always think, I'm old school, so my library's had pretty much the same books in it for 35 years. But, I love Scott Cunningham. I think he's great. And he had Magical Herbalism. He had the Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. It's still on my bookshelf, and I still always use it. I also, I think for anybody who's interested in understanding nature-based religions, I think Starhawk's The Spiral Dance and Margot Adler's Drawing Down the Moon, they're game changers. Drawing Down the Moon gets a little wordy. I think it's just really, it's just powerful. And I think it's because maybe it was at the time of the resurgence where there weren't as many voices that were busting through, but it's still so relevant. I think it's still so relevant. I also love Normandi Ellis. If you're into the Egyptian path at all, I think everybody should read Awakening Osiris. It's based on the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I'm going to Egypt with Normandi in September. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, September and October, I'm doing a tour with Normandi and another priestess. It's not in print anymore, but if you could get a copy of it, if you're into Isis at all, DeTraci Regula is, she's a priestess of Isis, and she has an amazing book called Mysteries of Isis, and it's really amazing. Another time I'll tell you how I came across that book, but unfortunately it's not in print anymore. So, it's hard to find, but it's very interesting because it talks a lot about setting up your altar and creating your sacred space. And it's relevant to really the goddess in all her names, not just Isis, but it is dedicated to Isis path. I don't know. That's kind of what's coming up in my mind right now. Oh, you know what else? So a lot of people come to me, and this is really trippy because I do a lot of uncrossing. So I think that as people are working along in their path right now, they're uncovering ancient curses and hexes and karma that they might have had. A lot of people that are now practicing or curious, they come from a long lineage of people who have practiced. And throughout that time, particularly in the old world, when it became unsafe for mostly women to practice, a lot of harm was done. And there was a lot of murder. There was a lot of, torture. There was a lot of things that happened to suppress the magical world. And as a result of that, anybody who's kind of pushed to that level might find themselves, if they're so inclined, to throw a hex or two around. And so what we are finding now at this stage of karma is the unbinding of those hexes. And what's really interesting, we do a lot of that when we're doing that, but we also find that it attracts people who are hexing us in this lifetime. So if in your path or along your family lineage, you might have, by choice or circumstance, thrown a hex or two around, you might become more susceptible to having something like that coming at you. Some people will throw hexes around and they don't even know you. But this really great book, and I'm getting to the point, and I actually have it right here because I love it. It's called Uncrossing, and it's really good. It has a lot of really good tips and tools for you to uncover whether or not there's something that's affecting you. So if you've just been life going really great and all of a sudden it's just taking a real turn and you can't quite figure it out, she has like ways of like testing yourself, or maybe like an egg cleanse or something, and finding out if there's something, something like that might be in your path. And then also some really excellent ways to heal from hexes, psychic attacks.
Who's the author, Pascha?
Katrina Rasbold.
That's right. Yeah, that is a great book. I second that one. Yeah.
Yeah, you got this one. You brought it in, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm going to check it out." But so that's been really, really interesting. I've been enjoying that a lot, and I like to refer it to people because I just feel like it's really relevant right now, and also in the time of social media, there's a lot of jealousy that happens because of social media, and people are sometimes I hate to say it, but they are sitting on their devices and they're scrolling around and they're like, oh man, I wanted to do something like that. Or maybe they're presenting life to be better than it really is. And it's putting a lot of jealousy out there. The Mama Haninah, like I told you, whenever my grandmother would walk down the street because she was very beautiful, my grandmother would come inside and say, oh, somebody told me I was beautiful today. And she would smack her in the head and say, get all that jealousy off of you. Right? Get that jealousy. Jealousy is like an evil eye. If people put jealousy, there's ill intent. And we know the power of intention, and we know how words are powerful, thoughts are powerful. So that it talks about it doesn't talk about that specifically maybe, but it does talk about how we get psychic attacks or we get ill intent. Anyway, there's my plug for that. It's a good book.
I'll put all the, put links up in the description so that everyone can find all the books and everything. And we did have Rebecca Beyer on.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
Now, you ladies both also have your own podcast called Mystical Tea, which I believe folks can find a link through your website. What's the idea behind your podcast, and what are some of the topics that you enjoy chatting about on there?
Well, it's called Mystic Tea. Not mystical, just mystic. Mystic.
I think there's already a mystical tea.
I don't know.
Okay.
So there was already a mystical tea, but we're just mystic. We just talk about the things we like. We interview our friends and people that are, have something that we'd like to giggle about. But I think we cover some really good information. We've covered like raising your vibration. We've talked about thriving as an empath. Trevor on there. Kitchen witch, kitchen magic. What else have we had on there?
Mycelium, the magic of mycelium and mushrooms, the mycelium network. We talked about that. So
our most recent one is focusing on Lisa's book, Positive Pagan, which is such a great book. Just the vibration of the book is so high. It was just so good. I mean, even just holding the book has that high vibration. We have an amazing wand maker named Vic Stansel. He's going to come on. We carry his wands. He only likes us to carry his wands. So even though he used to have it on Instagram, we have all of them now. Whatever he's left, but he understands tree magic more than anybody I've ever met in my life. Like he's just incredible. He's just a wealth of knowledge, and I think that because of our wonderful position as being a place where people like to come in, we meet so many interesting people and creators and magic makers and mystics. It's just, we just want to spend some time with them and get to know them better. And it's just
we want to share that with people. Yeah, so it's people in our community that are just creative and magical as well. So it's so much fun talking to them and, letting, people elsewhere hear about it too. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's
really
taking your little community hub shop and being able to broadcast it out. So
absolutely,
people elsewhere can get a taste of it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I've listened to three episodes. I listened to the.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, while I was doing some background research for this interview, but also because I wanted to listen and check it out. It is really nice and fun, and you do really feel like you're sort of sitting and chatting with some friends with a cup of tea. And the empath one was really good. I listened to that one. The one where you talk about your stories.
Oh, that's right.
I think that was called
Yeah.
That
That
was to introduce ourselves belatedly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really good. So everyone needs to check out the podcast. We'll put a link, of course.
Yeah, thank you.
As well.
I think it'd be fun to try to figure out how to do a reading. Like we can have people email us and we can do like some like movie readings or something like that. That'd be really a fun spot. Something.
That would be great.
Yeah, that's a future one. So yeah.
Cool. Speaking of Elisa's book called Positive Pagan, Staying Upbeat in an Offbeat World, would you tell us a bit about it and why you decided to write this book?
I actually happen to have it right here. Yeah. So I write a blog for Patheos called Witch Indeed, and it's pretty much just about my life here in Asheville and things I'm interested in. And so at one point, this was in 2019, and I was getting sort of fed up with like the constant negativity. And, you know, the pagan community is no different than other communities, but there was a lot of grouching going on and a lot of complaining. And I don't know, I just felt sometimes it just comes over me. I think it's Bridget that sort of guides me. And I wrote this blog called Being a Positive Pagan in a Dark World. And I must have hit some nerve because to this day, it is the blog that I have the most responses to. And I think it's because being positive is sort of seen as a negative thing. And I was just all about like, well, you know, complain all you want. I'm down for a good vent session, but it doesn't do anything. And for me, positivity is an energy that you can tap into to get things done. And so since I had such a response, I had an opportunity to present it to Llewellyn as a book idea. And I was like, hey, I don't know what this is, but a lot of people have asked me about this and I haven't really seen a lot of books out there. What do you think about this idea? And I got a book contract from that. And it was a very interesting process. I've never written an entire book before. You know, it was really important to me to have my voice in that book because, you know, they wanted to follow a format, which I completely understand, but I wanted it to be my voice. So, you know, in a way, this book is me in book form. So you're sitting with me over a cup of coffee or tea or whatever, and I'm helping you sort of tap into that positivity, because I think what's important is to acknowledge how hard life is. And I've had like some incredibly hard challenges in my life, but there was always something in me that I talk about. I call it like an ember, and I sort of just tapped into it in order to move forward and get things done or achieve things or move through the darkness. And then the funny thing was, as I was editing the book, like for the final round, I have seasonal affective disorder, and it was winter, and I just completely just shut down. And I struggled for quite a few weeks, and it was one of those things where I didn't even realize I was struggling, but like the book felt like this anvil over my head, and I couldn't move forward. And then one day I'm like, Lisa, you wrote a whole book on this subject. Why don't you just tap into it? And I did. And it was like, because to me, action is so important. And so you do one action and you feel a little bit better, and then you could do another one, and then you could do another one. And then pretty soon, you know, you're getting some stuff done, and that editing needed to get done, and it moved me through it. So I can genuinely say I've done everything in this book. These are all things I've done through my lifetime that have sort of just moved me through some really dark times and some challenging times. And so far, yeah, everybody's been telling me, it's like, even people that don't know me, it's like, I feel like I'm sitting with you and you're telling me, you know, we're talking over coffee. And I was like, great, because that's what I wanted. So I'm really glad it turned out that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a book launch party of Wand and Earth. I don't know when this will air, but it'll be on Saturday, June 18th from 3 to 5. And I'm making up a basket of some positive pagan items, and people that attend can enter a drawing for it. And, you know, we're just going to have fun and just celebrate the book. And then hopefully I'll be doing some workshops in between, like promoting it this summer. So
unfortunately, we'll air after that.
Okay.
But
no
it
problem.
doesn't mean people should go out and check out the book.
Yeah, we have the books in the shop. So
You do.
Well, Pascha, tell us your reaction of the book, because it was so sweet,
yeah.
because she hadn't seen it before it arrived to her in book form. So,
Well,
Surprise.
first of all, I love the book. I love the way it looked. I love the way it felt. I'm very sensitive to the vibes. Really sensitive to the vibes. So even just like when I pick up the book, I felt like I could feel all of the uplifting feelings inside. What I really liked about it was Lisa made it so easy. A lot of people get hung up on, am I going to do this right? Is it going to be, whatever? But the first thing I opened to was a salt bowl ritual, and it was like salt. Oh, I got salt. No, rosemary. I got rosemary. Like it was just like things that you have right in there, right here. And the layout of it is very simple. It's very approachable. It's very doable. It's very welcoming. And to me, that feels like Lisa. It's just practical, but it's powerful. I always taught my kids like that you create a magical world just by being. Like, you don't have to sit there and do a lot. You create it by what you put out into the world. And it's all around you. It's already there. You don't have to have a secret ingredient or make a 2-hour ritual about it. You can create in a moment, in just a flash. And Lisa's book makes that really seem like it's true. Like it's easy to read. It's lighthearted. It's practical. It's so chock full. It's got so much information in it, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. I don't know. It's just a good vibes book. I love it. I have it in my backpack, actually.
Appreciate, Lisa, when you were kind of describing it too, how you said, you made a note of how life is hard and people have challenges and difficulties. Everybody does. I think it seems like sometimes where the whole positivity is really negative kind of trend maybe came about is because there's like toxic positivity in the sense of people are like almost in denial or afraid to address and acknowledge those challenges and things that arise because they think it's gonna be antithesis to the positivity. It sounds like from what you were saying, you're kind of understanding like that approach is missing a lot of the puzzle pieces. To be legitimately positive as a force that you're working with and that will raise vibrations and so forth, you have to kind of work your way through that dark, because you're going to be stronger coming out the other side.
Yeah, both sides of it give you perspective. And that's why there's a sun and a moon on the cover, is because life isn't completely sunny and it's not completely dark. And we have to find our way, to get through it. And now I'm actually talking on that subject on Sunday at like a virtual conference, because it's like one of my favorite things. Like, what's the difference between toxic positivity and positive paganism? And I was just like, I get it. I completely get it. But in my own life, like I said, faced some horrific stuff, but what kept me going is I'm really grateful for, and I'm really delighted to be able to share that with other people and hopefully help them with that, because I don't want people to feel alone. I want them to feel like can take charge of their life and they can get to their dreams or just get through the next day, So that's why I made it really accessible and, simple and practical. And that's just like music to my ears when people have been telling me that. So I'm really grateful.
It's not preachy, and it's not like don't cry or feel better. It doesn't feel like that. It's like, here's a way that you could, raise the vibration in the room. Here's a way that you can, if that's like, that you can even like hold space for yourself while processing through something challenging. Here's a way that you can put this out, be a beacon for others. Like it's just really, it just feels so genuine. And I think that's what I really appreciate about it a lot.
I think that's, why maybe people try to sort of avoid going through some of their shadow work or something, because, it's like, it's scary. You don't know how to navigate it in
Yeah, I don't shy away from it in the book. I mean, I talk about shadow work and, you know, depression and moving through things and days where you just can't get out of bed, you know, just doing one simple thing, and turning the mundane into something magical. It can change, you know, it could keep you moving forward. And I just think that's really important. So,
Yeah, I think especially right now.
Yeah, sounds like it's definitely a very prescient book.
yeah, I know, good timing, but yeah.
Now, earlier on in the conversation, you all dropped a few mentions about the Two Brooms Tea House. Can you explain a little bit more about what that element of your business is?
So when I first got into this new location, we thought it would be nice to have a place where people could spend some time and gather, because there's not a lot of places in Marshall for that. You know, I'm a mother of twins, and I know that when babies were little, I had no socialization at all. Nobody else in my group had kids. Really, was really alone, and there wasn't any place to just bring my kids and hang out. So I always like the place. I like that we sort of set that up as a place where an exhausted parent can bring their kid, and the kid can play with a dragon for a while, and they could sit and have a cup of tea or a coffee and just kind of recharge their own batteries a little. So that was kind of one of the visions. And I came in, and the landlord, who doesn't maybe know how connected he is into all of the big master plan of whatever it is, he's like, "Oh, I built you these seats." So he had somebody come in and actually build seating in these two segments. So he already built like the seating area. Yeah, he was just amazing that way. So what we kind of figured is that we'll have two sections. People can sit kind of low, and then medium, and then there's a bar that, you know, like that you could sit on your computer or something if you just wanted to sit on a bar stool, and it, you know, just to be able to offer some more seating. And then the store remains the same. Everything kind of shifts back, and then the piano has to kind of move around a little bit. But, you know, people can play the banjo, people can play the piano. It's not huge. It's not a huge seating area, but maybe, I don't know, 6 or 8 tables. And then in that we'll have a private room and a library that with, you know, some of my collection of books, but it'll be a larger party. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 people could be back there for, you know, a kind of a private room and readings and things like that. And then we'll have yummy coffee, yummy treats, and just, you know, be able to hopefully service the community a little bit more in that way. We love tea, and then you get a little, you know, you get a little buzzy, a little floaty. The fairy people come in, they float around. And
Are we going to keep it Two Brooms, Pascha? I don't know.
Well, Two Brooms came about because when Tree and I were looking for Tree was my former manager, and she had a stroke, unfortunately, and's been in care. But when we were looking for the new location, that we started talking about how we want to do a tea house. We kind of jokingly made it like Two Brooms, like I'm a broom and she's a kind of thing. It's just kind of stuck. We just thought it was funny, you know, like we were kind of dreaming, and we're like, oh, we'll have a little Two Brooms tea house. But now that we have Mystic Tea going on, I don't know. I love names, and so many good ones out there. It's really hard for me to settle on just one thing. I want to be called all the things, but we also know that names are important. You know, they're powerful. So maybe it'll be Two Brooms. Maybe we'll call it, you know, Mystic Tea.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. It could be anything.
So it's that's not running yet. That's just in the future. Okay, cool. Something.
Yeah, well, we had to get plumbing. Plumbing was a significant issue because there was no water supply to the tea house. So it took us 2 years to get a plumber who was able to, you know, it's difficult to get contractors to do work. Then we got the plumber, and then we had to wait for somebody to finish the thing so the plumber could finish. So it's like one thing after another. But that happened today. So we're really not very far off. I mean, we've got the tea. And we've got the teacups, and we've got the tea stirs and all the tchotchkes. So, I mean, we're almost there. You just need water.
And the water. Oh, you still need water.
Yeah. We just got to finish the plumbing, and then we'll get it done.
That's the
Yeah, I
perfect
think we're
segue
really
into your
close.
question, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah. So going forward, what is your dream for Of Wand and Earth? How do you see Of Wand and Earth evolving?
I feel like I'm just really riding the wave right now for Of Wand and Earth. Wand and Earth is really beautiful right now. The expansion into the tea house is going to really be at another level. But as far as Of Wand and Earth, I feel really balanced in letting that ride a little bit. What I see more of our energy now going into is going to be the Star Network. It's going to be getting the temple active, getting those things, getting that outreach done. I really want to work with people who really want to have more places where people can meet and gather that need support. I'm not in recovery, but I know that there's like a need for pagan recovery. I'd like to be able to, we have a space. I'd love to be able to offer something like that. I'm interested in getting involved in the prison system and working with female inmates and, helping to like kind of do that. So I just want that. I really want to be focused on, I feel like Of Wand Earth it's kind of doing its own thing. Like it does. We've got an amazing team. Everybody's just like, it's just good. But now I want to move into the bigger picture, beyond the store, like purpose aspect of it. And I think that's what's next for us.
Kind of like the store was just a little pretense to get your foot in the door in the community. And then once you got the door cracked, you could be like, and there's this, ta-da.
Come on in. I know. And I always joke because like people will walk and they'll have kids or a dog, and the dog will like be breaking like the grown-up's arm trying to come in the store. And then the parents like pulling them away. And I'm like, it's like the gingerbread house, children. Come on in. But they love it. I mean, you're doing okay when the kids and the dogs love your store. I mean, like you've already won because they're not going to lie about it, I just, we talked a little bit earlier about this kind of multi-generational thing. And one of my favorite stories ever is at the old shack. And there was this little boy, he was maybe 4. He was so confident. He was just one of those powerful young ones that are just charging in. And he had 2 generations. He had his mom, and then they had grandma and grandpa. And you can tell that mom was kind of doing this, and grandma and grandpa were very old-fashioned, and they had traditional values, but they wouldn't have allowed this with their child. But this is the grandchild. Like this is the pride and joy. He hung moon, like it is just done. This child can do no wrong. And so they're holding space, and the mom is kind of holding the space between the two. And the boy comes up to me and he goes, I've got magic. And I come down to his level and I go, I know. And he goes like this. The mom is kind of like this, and the grandparents are kind of like this. And he goes, no, I mean real magic. And I go, I know. And then like the mom's kind of like, And then he goes, and I'm a dragon. And I go, I know. And he goes, a real dragon. And I go, I know. And mom is like, as a grandpa and grandma are like, that's our boy, like it was just so cool. Like all I did was affirm like his magic was real. And they're like, we'll be back, and like it was like this became their new favorite place because it was a place that all could come together, and this young one was honored. I thought that was really cool. That's one of my favorite stories.
Beautiful.
I think that's one of the coolest. We try to feature right now. Our apothecary is not full because of COVID. I didn't want the plants just not being, honored and used. And we, it was kind of, I would just say the apothecary was kind of dark, just like the lights were down as opposed to like dark feeling. But now that we're open again and things are really moving and we'll have the tea house going, we bring in a lot of, we try to, source from local herbalists, bring in things. And we have a few people who are making tinctures and salves and things, and they will bring things in. We feature Lori stuff, a sister of Mother Earth. She's always got some really great things. And so, we really try to definitely keep relations with our plant allies, our herbalists in the community. It's just to be in Appalachia with this kind of medicine, and it's so powerful and profound. It's just, I grew up in California, so we have a different type of plant medicine, but I mean, some of it's the same. We had a lot more of the desert plants and things like that. So it's just medicinal qualities. This region are just unparalleled.
Cool.
Yay. Well, thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming on. And thank you, everyone. We want to thank everyone for listening. And we will post all the links to Of Wand and Earth so everyone can check the shop out and everything. And woohoo, and podcast. And you can follow us. You can listen to us on Anchor and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube. We have a Facebook group and Instagram. And again, if you would like to support the podcast, you can go to our Anchor page and donate, or you can leave us a rating and a comment review on Apple Podcasts. So, yeah. So until next time, we will see everybody later.
All right.
Bye.